CQ, calling the Southwest Florida TechNet. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Southwest Florida TechNet on this 29th day of January in what we hope to be a much better year of 2021. This is Kilo Oscar 4, Echo Foxtrot Sierra, KO4 EFS. My name is Ian, and I'll be the net control station for today. The Southwest Florida TechNet is a board-approved net of the Fort Myers Amateur Radio Club. For more information about the net and the club, you can go to www.swfltech.net. That's www.swfltech.net. And more information from the club can be found at fmarc.net. That's fmarc.net. Stand by. This net meets weekly at 8 p.m. on the 146.685 repeater for the purpose of discussing technology and systems involved in amateur radio and to assist amateur radio operators to build and maintain radio systems and stations. In the event of a repeater failure, please switch to the 147.165 repeater. That's channel 1 on your ARRI standard frequency list. This is a directed net, so please follow the instructions of net control. Is there any emergency or priority traffic now before we continue? My spring's starting to wear out on my mic. I have to kind of wait a second and it goes tink. Let's see here. Okay, hearing none. If there's any emergency during the net, just say break and emergency and we'll let you have the repeater and we'll assist you in any way that we can. This net has a companion website for the passing of photos, links, and text. And there's also a link there to the Zoom meeting that's in progress right now. And the people in the Zoom meeting are able to hear us on the radio. To get to the Zoom meeting, go to www.swfltech.net. That's www.swfltech.net and click the Join Zoom button. I think it says direct Zoom link is what it says. Click the button. It says direct Zoom link. I'm now going to take any short time check-ins or mobile check-ins or anyone that's going to be unable to join us on the net tonight that would still like to check in on the Southwest Florida TechNet. Come now.
Net control. This is November 1, Quebec uniform, Larry in Naples, and I'm unable to check in on the iPad, but I am monitoring the meeting.
All right, net control recognizes N1NQU Larry in Naples, and we've got you checked in. Is there any other short time check-ins or anyone that's not able to join on the Zoom meeting? Come now. Okay, hearing none, we are now going to be transitioning to the Zoom meeting. I'd like to thank everybody for participating in the radio portion of the Southwest Florida TechNet. Please meet us over at the Zoom meeting. We're on swfltech.net. That's SWFL, like Southwest Florida, SWFL Tech, TECH.net. And just click the direct Zoom link button at the top right corner and you'll come right into the Zoom meeting. No problem. We'd love to have you. This net is now closed and the 146.685 repeater is returned to normal amateur operation. This is Kilo Oscar 4, Echo Foxtrot Sierra. I'll be clear and monitoring, switching to the Zoom meeting. Clear.
Kilo 4 EFS WA8 PDG. Looks like the link isn't working.
Well, there's about 20 people in here that would disagree.
It worked for me, Kilo Delta 7 Alpha Charlie Bravo.
Yeah, I've got 24 people in here. I'm not sure which link you have, but you definitely need to go to the swfltech.net website and click the direct Zoom link button at the top.
Refresh your web browser and then give it a try. AA4JS.
Thanks, John. That's probably a good idea too.
Got the web page up, but just the link doesn't work.
Okay, I don't know what to offer. We've got 24 of us in here. You may want to bring it up in a different browser or something. It may have the link from last week still in there. There's also another button on the front page on the left side, down about 3 inches. There's another one under the live chat button on the top there. You can just try any of those and see if you can get to us. But I know the links are correct because that's how we all got in there. So I'm not sure what to do. It never works for everybody. Okay. Yeah, that's clear. All right. Anyway, let me turn this down. Make sure nobody else is coming on. All right.
I had a problem because I was clicking on last week's. It was still on, my screen was still on from last week.
Yeah, and I think that might be the thing. Some people's browsers, in order to save whatever internet bandwidth, will catch things and not reload the entire page, and sometimes it does that too. So I don't know. I don't know if there's something I can do on my end on the website to make it not do that. I don't know. I think we're going to get to the point where we can start emailing the actual Zoom link to everybody too, but it is nice when we get everybody to find the website, because the website's also where the sign-in page and the share page. By the way, if you want to sign in, you can go to the sign-in page under LiveNet, sign in. And there's also a screen share page there that you can go to, and that way you can share links to your favorite antennas or anything during the discussion. All right, I guess that's about that for right now. Let me move this over here and rearrange my screens a little bit. And we're going to start this discussion. I basically... John Wells has agreed to come in and help me tonight since he knows what we're talking about and I don't. That's always good, right? And so John, I appreciate you coming in tonight. I really do. Somebody has to keep an eye on me. John watched me last week and I was good. I hope. Anyway, so all right, we got 25 of us in here. That's not bad. All right, what I've got on the screen here is I just I did a quick little PowerPoint presentation. It's basically just so we can see what's on the screen and we're all just going to talk about it. I'm sure that there's someone in here that's had each one of these antennas, and we want to hear from you. I've had one of them. Okay, so I'm not the one to ask, but there's plenty of us in here that know. So let's get right to it. Tonight we're doing HF antennas, and I got to tell you, of all the different topics, of all the different areas that you can do, HF antennas is deep. It is really deep. I mean, build your own, buy your own, do it. It's a very deep subject. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to take it in pieces, and we're going to start with the most simplest of antennas, and then we're going to work our way up to the most complex. I ask that you don't bring up a new antenna until you wait, because it's probably coming up in the slideshow. In other words, don't say, yeah, that one's good, but I like this one, because that one's probably later in the slideshow. So that's all I'm asking is let's just deal with the antenna on the screen, and then we're going to go to the next. Then at the end, I will leave an opportunity for you guys to bring up any additional antennas, because I don't have near all of them on here. So I got the ones that I got off the Sunshine Net. For those of you who didn't hear me earlier, I was the net controller on the Sunshine Net, and I wrote down what everybody's favorite antennas were. So that's kind of our starting point tonight. I got 30 something responses there, and and that's how I figured out which antennas we were going to talk about. But we are just going to start with the very basic ones. So we're basically going to start with omnidirectional antennas. An antenna that basically spews out its energy in every direction, just like a bare light bulb would in a room. And so that's basically where we're going to start, is on the omnidirectional antennas. I broke everything down into 3 sections tonight. We're going to do basically omnidirectional antennas, we're going to directional antennas, and then we're going to do mounting and stealth applications. So there's kind of 3 sections we're going to be doing tonight. And John and everybody out there, please pipe up talk about this stuff with me because I don't know anything about this stuff. All right, the first one, the HF single band dipole. I put this one on here. This one's a great, I've already built one of these myself on one band, and then I rebuilt it for 2 or 3 other different bands, and it's a fun little project. I'd like to open it up now for anybody that wants to discuss this. This is something you can build at home. Doesn't require any fancy anything because you're building it just for one band. So it doesn't require anything, not even a tuner. If you do it right and you are able to cut it to the right length and everything, you can make this antenna, put it on your radio and use it without even using a tuner. That's what's great about it. So I'll open this up right now for anybody that wants to talk about these a basic single band dipole antenna.
I have read, this is Vic, I have read that your feed line needs to be close to a multiple of a quarter wavelength. Is that true?
I have not heard that. Has anyone else heard that? Okay, and on a standard dipole, I have never heard of any requirements that the feed line be a certain length or anything. So I would have to look that up. I have not heard anything about that.
I'll comment on that, Ian, real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've heard that before, but one way to stop that is just to put a 1-to-1 balun up at the point, and that'll stop any of that common mode coming back down on you. And that way it won't try to use the feed line as a counterpoise.
Okay, okay, so that must be that then. All right. All right, so let's just move on to the next one here. The one thing you got to make sure on all this stuff, and I don't need to tell you guys this, but is your isolators. But you if you're home brewing this at home, you don't have to buy fancy isolators. You can use almost anything that's completely non-conductive. And all right, the next one here is a trap dipole. I have not messed with this yet, but by using the traps, I believe we can shorten up the line. Is that the reason for that? Does anybody want to speak to this one? Okay, and these are go ahead.
Yeah, traps are usually inserted in the line to allow you multi-band. In other words, they cut off part of your antenna length when you're using a shorter band, and as the band gets longer, then you add more wire to it with the trap. But traps also will effectively shorten the length. Say your longest length you wanted was 80 meters, and you've got a 80 meter, 40 meter trap in there, then you would shorten the length somewhat. It wouldn't come out to the full calculation of 80 meters.
All right, cool. And they do sell these, although I will admit I only had one person bring this one up. Not that popular of an antenna. This one's a little more popular. This one is a parallel dipole or a fan dipole. This is one where basically it's a simple dipole, and then you add additional dipoles to it to get you the different bands that you want. So it will resonate on the one frequency you're looking for. I'll open this up. Does anyone want to talk about these?
I can talk about it there, Ian.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so I have quite a bit of experience with these because I like building antennas, and this is the way that I deal with a lot of problems that you run into. One nice thing about these over the trapped dipoles that you showed earlier is they're not near as lossy. Those coils can cause you to lose some power, so to speak, radiation, whatever. The only thing about fan dipoles are when you make them really long, you've got to get your separators good enough so that the thing doesn't spin in the wind or anything like that. But for the most part, they work really, really well. I have had good luck with 2-inch separators up to 5 to 6-inch separators, and they haven't made a difference to me. I don't know what other people's experience has been, but I like them because you can have multiple bands that you want specifically. So if you want like 3 bands specifically, you can just cut it for all 3 and have it all in one antenna, and you're only using the same supports. Although off of the ends, you might have to put some, I'll call them support ropes, because they're going to be shorter in length.
All right, yeah, and I think it's so cool that that the signal will go up there and will resonate on the one it's supposed to resonate on. It's always that old story is, you know, you take a pill for a headache. How does it know? How does it know where to go? But that's so cool how it does that. I think that's amazing. And there's several different designs here right on the screen. I saw one where the longest band was almost horizontal, and then each band came down like a V shape. And each one, the separation became more as they came down. And then I've seen others like this. I think you're right though about that. You would need some kind of separator, and you would need a bunch of them to make sure that your wire stays the same separation all the way across. So I probably wouldn't be real good in real windy places. Random length multi-band dipole. That's pretty much what I'm running now at home. I mean, am I correct? That's my 60 odd foot on each end length wire that I'm running at home with a ladder line into a tuner. That's pretty much what I'm running here now, I think. And that's probably the most common antenna that people get started with. They're about $70. They're really not that expensive to buy.
Okay, can I
does
ask?
anybody want to speak about that? Yeah, go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question. I noticed that you have a ladder line going in here to the tuner. What if you had a baling all the way up on top there, and then instead of running this, you ran a regular coax cable into the tuner? You know, is that reasonable? Because
John?
Okay, so one of the reasons that they're running the ladder line is because the ladder line is at 450 ohms, first of all, and that's compensating for what's going on up above. Also, a ladder line is better than coax. Coax actually has a lot of issues with it because it's an unbalanced line. You think of coax as being balanced yourself because you think everybody uses it, but it's actually an unbalanced line. So the problem is when you're going from balanced to unbalanced is a problem. Whereas this dipole here, although it's random length, so it's probably not balanced, it helps compensate for that. The other thing about the ladder line is you need to have enough of a length. You can't go like 5 feet. That just doesn't work. You have to be long enough. Usually it's 20, 25 feet. So if you don't have a way to get it up high enough or get it far enough away from where you're coming in, sometimes that becomes a problem. I don't play with ladder line much, but that's one of the issues that people is. But it is great to use when you're using it with the right antennas.
And I know with ladder line, if you're cutting ladder line, there is some formulas for that, I'm pretty sure, that would give you a better performance.
Another advantage of ladder line is low loss. Coax cable is lossy in comparison even at the lower frequencies, but you can run a mile of 450 ohm ladder line to an antenna and you won't have hardly any loss. So that's one of the big advantages.
Now, out of here comes a newbie question. Here it comes. Out of mine, I've got a 25-foot piece of very thick, low loss coax that runs into what I believe is a whatever that goes into, and then there's the 2 lugs on there that the ladder line starts out. Yeah. I think it's a balun or an unknown. I'm not sure what it is.
Probably a 4-to-1 balun.
Yeah, I mean, this antenna was given to me by Tom Lambie, so I don't even have the paperwork on it. But yeah, it has that. Now I'm wondering if I can mount that a little closer to the shed. Would I be better off bringing that ladder line straight in and hooking it into the wing nuts on the back of my rotor tuner, or am I going to get a lot of loss with that 25-foot in that little glass thing that it connects to, the unun or whatever it is that it connects to? You understand what I'm trying to say? Right now I got 25 foot of coax going into this connector, and then I've got another 25 feet of ladder line going up to the element. So I'm trying to figure out if I should try to get it to where the ladder line makes it all the way in straight to the tuner and doesn't have to go through that extra step.
Well, I don't know. That's a good question. If you had, like, say you had 300 feet to go to the antenna, I would definitely say make the vast majority of it ladder line.
Right.
You can get away with a small piece of coax. And it's better that it be low loss coax. Heck, if you're real concerned about it, change the coax to LMR 400 or something. But you can run. The big thing is you want to maximize that 450 ohm line as much as you can, because that is extremely low loss. So you won't lose much signal with it.
See, I'm wondering if I would be better off repositioning my line so I can bring the ladder lines, because my tuner has lugs right on the back where your ladder line can look straight up. I could try that and see if my gain's any better.
You can try it. It's probably not going to be a perceptible difference, would be my guess.
Yeah, then it may not be worth it because I have to re-engineer.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Yeah, no, I had another question. I just looked at my tuner, and it's an auto tuner and everything else, and I'm looking, and I don't even have lugs to hook up the ladder line to. It's just for coax cable attachment, and that's it.
Yeah.
To bring it in. So the last time setup I had a line going, regular coax going from the balun up on top, right next to the insulator, okay, and going into the tuner. That was it. And you're right, I did not have good reception. I did not hook up with too many people or anything. But I'm just,
Well, let's say you don't have a provision on the back. What is it? Your tuner?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I have a what's it? IT 100 LDG tuner, auto tuner, that my son gave it to me because I wouldn't know any better and buy something like that,
Well, what you do is you're on a short piece of coax out to a balun outside, and then the rest of it you make it your 450 ohm ladder line, and that should work just fine.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to run ladder line into your shack.
I'd rather not do that either.
Ladder line will resonate. So you're bringing RF into your shack.
Yeah, you don't want
Whereas shielded coax, you're still going to resonate some, but not nearly as much as the 450 ohm.
And you can always put a choke balun and you put inside too and stop that. That's what I've got.
Okay. Okay, but then the issue is I have to have at least you said at least a 25-foot long ladder line, right?
Yeah, it would be helpful. I've run it shorter than that, and it only worked on one band long time ago.
The
days when I was ignorant about antennas.
I see. Okay, great. Thank you for this input. This is really valuable. I would not have known this. Thank you.
All right.
Hey, Ian, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a random length dipole isn't really any length of dipole. You have to make sure that the length is not resonant on any band, or you won't get the multiple bands. I'm pretty sure of that, but I'm not an expert.
So in other words, you don't want to make it an 80-meter antenna and then try to tune it to everything else. You want it to literally be off all the frequencies.
That's the way I understand it. A
Yeah,
random
what's
length.
going to happen you make it an 80-meter antenna like that, and you go to tune up on 40, you're going to run into high impedance. And then you'll be able to run 20 and maybe 15 and 10, but you will not be able to use it on 40.
See what I mean about this being so deep? we could spend a month on this, I swear.
Oh yeah, easily, more than that.
All right, well, all right, let's move on to the next one. They get a little bit better. This is basically a configuration for a dipole. And this is the configuration I'm using at home right now. I've got my center point up about 22 feet, and I've got my endpoints at about 10 feet each. And I'm getting pretty good with it. I'm doing pretty good with it. So does anybody want to talk about the inverted V? I think that's pretty unanimous that this is a great configuration if you're going to use a long wire. Yeah.
I had if I could just have a question,
go ahead, Rick.
newbie question. I probably should have asked it before, but it occurred to me. I see that for the elements you're using copper wire. That's highly suggested over aluminum. And a question with that, which is best, solid wire or stranded, say copper in that field? And then if it were solid, what gauge would be recommended? How would you judge those things? Thanks a lot.
John, you want to field that one?
Yeah, I'll field some of this. First of all, copper, it's all about velocity in that. So copper seems to be the better way to go. Although you could use aluminum, it may be a different length in the end. I don't use solid copper wire because most of my applications are going to be more portable for that. If you were going to make it permanent, but not really out in the weather, stranded the solid's fine, but the stranded's really more giving. So if you're going to have it outside, the experience outside is better with the stranded wire. And remember, over time, copper over time will get a little longer, so you may have to readjust it at some point, you know, as things go on. And so that's my recommendation, is to go with the stranded, because in the end, it gives you a little more flexibility, because like any wire, you know, over time it can kink and crack off. So that'd be a problem.
Thank you for that. I was going to ask you, approximately what gauge would you say would work best?
Okay, for what though? What application?
Does it matter?
Well, sure. If I'm going to do a quick portable, I might use 22 gauge, but if I'm going to leave it up outside, I might do 14.
14, yeah.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Thank you for that.
What you're going to do with it, what's it going to be exposed to?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? Did you say if you do it in the inside, what size gauge did you say to do it?
No, what I was saying is, if I was going to do it portable, let's say I wanted something I could throw up real quick. Well, I want something really light, maybe 20 gauge, 22 gauge. But if I'm going to leave it up for some time, I'm going to want something a little more durable, maybe even 14 gauge. But remember, the more gauge you get, the heavier it gets. So now you got to consider your points, where you're hooking up.
Right. Thank you. I misunderstood.
Thank you for that.
Okie doke. All right. Anything else on the dipole or the inverted V?
Yeah, another thing I would say is with aluminum wire, it's the same problem you're going to get like they had put several years ago with aluminum wire and house wiring. If you connect it to a copper or anything, you're going to get a bimetal reaction and you get corrosion. So it's the same problem they had with the house wiring. So you want to make sure that if you do use aluminum wire, that you use stainless steel to connect it to the copper to get rid of that interaction.
There you go. I can tell you a story. When I was a kid, my father and I completely rewired my grandmother's trailer. She had a nice double wide trailer, but it was aluminum wiring, and she had a fire.
Yeah.
And she was able to extinguish the fire before it consumed the home. And then about 2 months later, she had another plug start smoking, and it was the copper in the plug and the aluminum wire, and it was causing a heat. You know how it is. And we had to rewire her house, or she was going to move because it was going to kill her. Anyway, yeah, I'm so glad they outlawed that stuff.
Yeah, I am.
Although I wish I could find some now for making antennas with. Let's see here. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so just in the chat room here, Bruce brings up a good thing. He talks about doing like an antenna building party.
Yes.
You know, where people have bring a tuner. The one issue with this type of antenna building party is, if we tune your antenna at a certain height, at a certain location near a certain amount of trees, and now you take it home and it's going to be in a little different environment, sometimes it won't still be tuned and you're going to have to do it again anyway. Nothing wrong with learning how to build. That's not what I'm saying, but to make it so that it works, we'll say the same, is sometimes pretty difficult to do. But it's not that it can't be done. It's just you have to adjust it later.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, the environment around these antennas is somewhat important as well, as I'm sure you know. I mean, I got a corner of mine goes over the corner of my house, and I got another piece that's about 3 feet away from my mast, and I'm sure all that doesn't help. That's probably why I have to put out a little more wattage to get overseas, because I don't have optimum spacing and everything out there. But anyway,
you
that's
can
why
also feed that inverted V with 450 ohm line. And that would give you more flexibility as to what bands to get on and all that. If you're feeding it with coax, say it's a 40-meter antenna, you've got 40 and 15. But if you feed it with a piece of, feed it with 450 ohm lead, and then you can tune it all over the place, with 40 being your minimum frequency.
Yeah, now mine, I got 25 foot of ladder line and 25 foot of coax after that. And I'm able to tune everything on here but 160.
Yeah.
160, I cannot get under 1 to 2. And also, it gets real squirrely around 6 and 10. But I think they all do. It's just way out of whack.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, when I'm tuning it on 6, sometimes I'll get a little RF burn from the tuner. So, and it's grounded, I swear. All right. Anyway, RF wire doublet. I know nothing about this. I had 2 or 3 different people mention this on the Sunshine Net. Is anyone familiar with the HF wire doublet? Okay, well, there's your homework assignment. Look up this one. Because I don't know anything about it either. So there's a couple in here that we might not, but I had several people recommend this, and it looks very similar to the other designs. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And then we've pretty much, this is just a random wire. Does anybody want to talk about this? I've never really heard of this, but I saw some stuff about it on there where you just use one long piece of wire. Does anybody want to talk about that?
Ian. Go ahead.
Ian, one thing about the inverted V, you got to have at least 90 degrees angle in there. That's not on the diagram, but you need 90 degrees. And the more you raise the legs, it's going to change the SWR. Plus, then it becomes a bidirectional
changes your power
dipole as opposed to omnidirectional. So about 90 degrees, and get the middle as high as you can, and you keep them 90 degrees, you got an omnidirectional antenna for the most part.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I tried to get that. I got like 20 feet, and then my ends are at about 10 feet. So I'm trying to get that 90 degree, but I'm so limited on where I got it. I got it kind of going right between this tree and around that, and I about killed myself cutting a branch down out of this other tree. Anyway, let's not talk about that.
Okay.
Has anyone used a random wire? Just one random long wire?
Certainly. The thing to remember about these is for each, as you change frequencies, you're going to get different patterns out of that guy. So he's, you can stick a piece of wire out your window like that, and he's going to work. But like I said, you're going to be all different directions as you go up the frequency spectrum. But yeah, you can match that. In fact, a good enough antenna tuner, you can match a paper clip on 160 meters now. Whether it radiates or not, it's a different story. But you can do all kinds of crazy things with that.
You may just light up the fluorescent lights in your kitchen, but yeah. All
hey,
right,
Ian, Dan
ahead,
KD7ACB here. You were saying about the random wire. I've actually used one of those. I've got one of those in my little bag that I take with me with my portable station. It's single, set up for a single band, just for 20. But just for the heck of it, one year I took my TS480 and that
I got one of those.
Random wire with about 50 feet of coax, took it down to Key West on vacation. And it's got a little matching network, at the end of it that you hook up to coax. Threw that over the balcony and talked all over the place with it. California, and checked into I believe it was the Veterans Net or something. Anyway, one of the nets they were doing at one of the hospitals out in California. Talked to them in a couple of different states.
You were probably also talking on the TV in the room below you too.
Well, actually, I only had one person come up to me when we were down at the swimming pool and asked me. I never was told that I was interfering with anything. They said, "What's that wire hanging over your, balcony?" And then, of course, that started the conversation. I thought they were going to get us in trouble, and I thought, "Oh crap," I was getting into something or what. But no, he just was curious about. So then that started the conversation about ham radio and all that stuff. So They do work. And yes, I have used one in less than optimal conditions and was able to make contacts, and it was pretty fun.
Yeah, I'm dealing here at my house right now. My wife, we have a set of speakers. I ran a wire down under the bed and back behind the bed, and we've got speakers on both sides of the bed, PC speakers. Well, you can imagine what those do when I'm on 80 and 40. I mean, they ran the whole time. So we now have my wife now, okay, do I need to go speakers off? Because that means she has to go back to the audio on the TV for a while because I'm using my big radio, as she calls it, my big radio. You're using the big radio tonight. Anyway, all right, verticals. And we're just going to talk about all kinds of verticals here. Basically, a vertical is just a vertical, and then you've got to have some kind of grounding radials there with it. And this one was the most highly recommended antenna of the entire Sunshine Net. And I've had people tell me they're really, really great. And I've had other people tell me that they get really narrow at 40 and 80, and they really just don't pick up that much in the higher band or in the lower frequencies or whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to put this out there. I'd love to hear what you guys got to say about it. It came highly recommended with a few people not highly recommending it. So there you go.
KC1FLU.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, it depends on your vertical. If, as you see here in the diagram you've put up, you have a trap-based antenna versus a coil-based antenna. The two behave very differently, obviously. I've got a vertical with a sliding coil from Wolf River Coils, and using it at my QTHs in New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, and here in the Cape, I've been able to get contacts on 20, 40, and 80 between Slovenia, Cuba, and Venezuela. You just tune it, you slide the coil up and down to adjust, quote, your length, as it were, to tune to the band and tune it for lowest noise, or if you want to throw a meter on it and dial it in for lowest SWR, that also is good if you have a meter handy. But marvelous signals on single sideband, doing digital for RIDI and PSK work, and et cetera. So yeah, I can highly recommend verticals. And besides that, they're easy to set up. You put a stake in the ground, throw a couple of ground radials out, and you're on the air.
Well, see, this one here, I was looking at this one. I want to buy this one. It's only about $240 out of my price range. But
yeah, that is the other consideration, is the price. The Wolf River stuff is relatively inexpensive, and like I said, it comes in takedown sections, so it packs into a 5-foot long package if you want to travel with it. So if you're going to go do a field day or parks on the air, or traveling between your QTHs, if you have multiple north south, if you're snowbirding it, it's a wonderful thing to do because it compacts into a 5-foot long package. You assemble it like a tent pole, literally, with just fitted, slotted, and up it goes, and you're radiating.
My question is, when it comes to ground wires, what's the minimum that you have to have? Because obviously, recommendation is you have 36 of them, 360 degrees. But what's the minimum in order to get a decent performance out of it?
Well, Anthony, I'll give you my experience. Personally, here at the Cape, where our house is next to a saltwater canal, I don't run any ground radials.
Really? Wow.
I have a galvanized pipe driven into the ground 3 feet that is about 12 foot from a saltwater canal. So obviously I've got good conductivity in this soil here. Up north at my Pennsylvania QTH, I will run 3 33-foot ground radials laid out across the clay soil up there, because those conditions just, well, it's clay soil, it's terrible. So, what you do is do your reading and play. 14 gauge wire at Home Depot is pretty cheap. You get a couple of crimp connectors, lay out some radials, test it, play with it, see what best performance you have. That's part of our hobby, is playing around and seeing what works best for your particular situation. That's the best. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. There you go. The spider web. Very good, right? Ian. Yeah.
I saw this.
I don't know if my paycheck is big enough to cover that amount of copper. I mean, I don't know if I have that amount of copper in my house for plumbing pipe.
I'm gonna tell you what. There's probably $200 worth of copper laying in this yard. And if your neighbor kids find out about it in the morning, there won't be $400 worth of copper laying in this yard.
You've got that right. That is the other situation, right?
Yeah.
And also too, like I said, if you want to do field portable stuff, field expedient antennas, for field days, if you want to just go out, throw an antenna into a tree, keep it simple, keep it as easy as possible, and just go enjoy the hobby and talk to somebody. That's really what we're here for, right?
Exactly. And I thank you so much for this input.
Anthony, WG4K.
Go ahead, Anthony.
Well, this is Dave, WG4K. I have a 5.
Go ahead, Dave. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a 5 BTV, which I use for portable, or which I did use for portable. I used it with my motorhome. My counterpoints was just a 30-foot length chassis, the steel in the chassis. But if you go to DX Engineering, they show you how to make a common mode choke, and they recommend you use a common mode choke at the transmitter and a common mode choke at the base of the antenna for the type of installation I was doing. And it worked fine. And I used it. I talked back from the Yukon territory to Fort Myers, but I have since gone to a different vertical antenna, an Eagle One, which is easier to deploy. And but I still have the 5 BTV.
Oh, okay. Here, I'm looking at the website here. That's what you're talking about right there, right?
No, a common mode choke is a coil of coaxial cable. I think about 7 turns at about 4 inches inside diameter, or maybe 5 inches inside diameter. So I've just got a coil of coax at the transmitter and a coil of coax at the antenna.
Some people do a thing called the ugly balance. Dave will know what that is too. They do the thing called the ugly balance, just a little bit more coax, but it's the same idea.
Yep. Wrap it around a piece of PVC, 4-inch. Yep.
Man, some of these grounding systems are elaborate. Holy crap.
Yeah, well, it's elaborate on your bank account too.
Yeah, look at that one.
Yeah.
That's $12 just in bolts.
Yeah. No.
Hey, Ian, Dan.
More than
again
that
here,
if it's
Caden.
stainless.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dan. There's a cool
Okay,
one. Go ahead, Dan.
I thought I heard somebody else in there, but I got a story about that. The one that Leo was talking about, this Wolf River Coils take it along antenna. I also have one of those too that I use right now up in Sebring for HF. And first time I ever set it up, I was showing, my girlfriend Kim, kind of showing her a little bit about it. Okay, this is one type of antenna, kind of explaining to her about different types of antennas, and set it up in the backyard. And she was, she's like, well, how far, can you talk with this? And I don't remember what contest it was or whatever. Anyway, it was on a contest weekend. And I said, well, I'm not sure how far we're going to, get here, but we'll see what we can hear. So anyway, made a couple of contacts and talked to Washington State and Ontario, Canada. So I kind of looked over at Kim and I smiled and I said, was that far enough for you? Clear across, as far west in the United States as you could get, northwest, Washington State, and then Canada. So straight up the seaboard, and then out west there. So she thought that was pretty cool, from a little antenna in the backyard set up by the swimming pool. So that's not bad. They'll reach out and touch. I mean, you can get out there with them. So that was kind of fun.
Yep. Yeah, I will verify that. I've gotten Slovenia, Finland, Sweden, most of the Caribbean states, Venezuela, Cuba. Just off that mine is the portable vertical. He's talking about the TIA, which is a more backpack portable. So if you want to do hiking and get up high and, mountains, et cetera, in the woods, whatever, it's a little bit lighter, a little less cumbersome. It breaks down into smaller pieces, but, both options are available. They're pretty robust. They're made out of stainless steel and aluminum tubing. Check them out. And if you want to see one, let me know. I'll let you know what I have down here with me.
All right. Anybody else? Anything on trap verticals?
If anybody's interested in the Wolf River coil, is going to field day tomorrow. I'll have one there.
And I just posted a link in the chat window for Wolf River Coils. Now, I have no affiliation with them, but I use their product. I believe in it. It works well for me. It may not work well for you. You know, your mileage may vary. That's all I can say.
And I've got the last slide of the slideshow is come to Winter Field Day because we're demonstrating all these out there. I mean, we literally, I think we'll probably have 5, 6, maybe even as many as 7 or 8 different kinds of antennas out there. So, Robert, did you have something? You're muted. Which was the phrase for 2020, by the way.
Yeah. Okay.
Phrase of
Can
the
you
year.
hear me?
Yeah, we got you now, Robert. Go ahead.
A ICOM 7100, and I have a Gap DX Titan antenna up about 35 feet. I'm getting a lot of noise, and I understand that verticals do produce a lot of noise. Is there any way that I can reduce that noise? It's a 9-band antenna.
Somebody want to take that?
How many radials you got, Robert?
I'm sorry?
How many radials you got?
I have just ICOM 7100.
No, not radios. How many radials off the antenna?
Ground radials.
The Gap Titan doesn't require radios. It's got that loop of wire.
Okay, well that would make it noisy. Okay.
It just uses counterpoise.
Yes, you're using the cable as the counterpoise, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why you don't need to. How much cable you got?
I'm sorry.
How long is your coax cable?
Probably 60 feet.
Okay. How much is outside on the ground?
It's laying on the ground right now, and I've got to get it up off the ground and attached to the house.
Well, see, antennas that don't have counterpoises, you will use the coax as a counterpoise. You probably need at least 25 feet laying on the ground or in the ground, probably to do better, I'm guessing, off the top of my head, because usually that's one of the problems you run into with the verticals with no radials, because you're not getting good ground. Just be a guess. I mean, you could try it one way or another, but that might explain your excess noise.
The other thing I did, and I found I had noise too, I made sure that I ran my antenna connection as it comes in the house through a ground connection. In other words, your coax is grounded. Of course, I could talk about the common point ground plane and all that, but that's another discussion for another day. But the idea is you're grounded as you enter the house. And then on the other side of that, I put a common mode choke. So we see if try that and see if that helps you.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Leo KC1 FLU, known down here as Leo 1. You might want to check and make sure that your mounting points for the ground side of your Titan DX are clean. Any corrosion, etc. Just go out there with a little bit of sandpaper and some dielectric grease, do a little quick tune-up on that, and make sure that you have a good path to ground at the base of the antenna, because like I said, it being a non-ground radio required antenna is going to use the stake in the ground as your ground point for the base of your antenna. Now, if you have bad soil conditions, sandy soil, yeah, okay, maybe, but it's been awful kind of dry down here. So unless you're watering a lot, you're not getting a good electrical conductivity. So you might want to throw out a couple of extra wires and just make sure those contacts are in good shape. That's all. The only thing I can suggest. Simple and quick and easy.
Okay. I've got a journey to work on.
Well, let's hope the journey is a short trip.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move on to the next one here, the magnetic loop. I had this one recommended by several people, and these come in all shapes and sizes from any frequency you want, from one this big all the way up to one as big as your house. And I've seen some examples. It's hard to put pictures up here of all the different things because some things it's just hard to take a picture of. But you can see in the upper right there, that's actually a loop that's just made out of a long piece of wire, and it's made into a square, and it's got four basically the isolators that hold it out and into a square. And that's a form of a loop antenna as well. And then you see some other loop antennas here as well. I know they're used also a lot with VHF and UHF, I believe as well. I saw some stuff. So who would like to speak on loop antennas? Has anybody used those?
The antenna to go ahead.
I have the one on the upper right-hand corner, a square loop in the backyard, 80 meters. It's 260 some feet, 65 feet on each side, and I tune it. I run it on 80 straight, but I tune it to the other bands, so I can tune it on 5 bands.
Yeah.
Nice.
Also known as the loop skywire. You can also feed it with 450 ohm lead.
Yeah, I'm feeding it with coax straight out of my tuner, and I've got it at 20 feet elevation.
Yeah.
And that's basically, I mean, the dimensions you just said, so 60 feet-ish, 65 feet on each side. That's basically like the wire I have now is about 65 feet on each side. So it's kind of like basically two wire antennas into a square. Except, what is it? You've got one whole side is the positive side, and one whole side is the negative side, I guess. Yeah, and then it's isolated on the back end. All right, I see how they got that.
This is a loop. This is a continuous loop. Was what this is.
Oh, it is a that's what I was wondering, if it's contiguous or if there's an actual break on the other end.
No, there are no breaks. The only break is where you're at your feed point. And you go through that loop and back, you know, say from your center of your cable or one side of your 450 ohm lead, but it's a continuous loop. There's no break there.
So as fancy as this looks, there's really nothing fancy to making something like
Absolutely nothing. Yeah, I mean, you could, that's one of the cheapest antennas you can make. It doesn't cost you anything. The biggest cost.
And it gives you a lot of surface area to receive.
Yeah.
I would think it would work pretty
Just
good.
have to have stuff in the appropriate locations to tie it to.
And those things are very quiet.
Yeah, and I have a friend in Orlando, WA4NFY, who has one of these up, and he's got a remote control switch at the far end, and he can open up that loop and tune it to 160.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
All right.
I'm starting to realize 160 is a challenge band. It really is. I mean,
Yeah,
most of the stuff it's not set up for 160. It's
That's
just
right.
not.
It's just above the AM broadcast band. I was listening to a little bit of 160 last night with my 80 meter antenna. So you can hear things on there, but I didn't try to transmit it. You get like at least a 2 to 1.
Well, I know the other night I was up about 1 in. I like to tune around late at night. And about 1 in, I tuned to the FT8 frequency on 160. And there was people talking to each other on there. I was kind of disappointed that I don't want to mess my radio up and try to talk to them because I can't get a good SWR. But anyway, there is actually FT8 traffic up there. All right.
Does anybody have any of those those loop antennas that you shown in the pictures? Yeah, the commercial ones as opposed to the one that you make yourself. Does anybody have any experience with those?
I'll make a comment about the loops too. There's a difference between the loop that Dave WG4K has, which is the wire loop on the upper right there,
right,
and the magnetic loops that you're seeing down below. The magnetic loops that you're seeing, particularly the bottom left one, for example, there's a capacitor in that little box, and it's like a tuner for all intents and purposes, so you can tune. Your coax would hook to that little loop. I've actually made my own. I think it was 2 weeks ago, I was out in my front yard running 20 watts, and I talked about 1,200 miles away on 20 meters. The issue with them is you have to have enough capacity, a strong enough, I'll use the word strong for right now, strong enough capacitor in your box to take the high wattage. because you're talking thousands of volts if you're running 100 watts through this, and you'll get yourself lit up.
You'll need
The nice thing about these little antennas, though, is you can set them up very quickly on a table next to you if you're running low power, and they're directional. So if you have noise coming off one side or the other, you can just turn them just a little bit and get rid of the noise. So I play with these a lot. I've actually built a couple of them, and they're pretty fun to play with, but they're not highly efficient, right? They're a compromise for sure.
And they're very narrow bandwidth too.
Yes, extremely narrow, small little loop, much more narrow. Absolutely.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. This is good input.
All right. The next one is last call for the wire loop or mag loop antenna. All right. The next one, I know a couple of guys that have this one in the club. We're talking about the end fed. This one seems like it would be good if you had an application where you could put a wire way out, just one wire way out somewhere. Who is using an end fed out there and wants to talk about this?
I'm running end fed half wave here. And
okay, and how's that one working?
Okay, it works very well. Now the way to look at an end fed halfway is to look at it as kind of like a dipole. The difference is that instead of feeding it in the middle, you're feeding it on the end. Well, you're feeding it not at the 50 ohm point, but at like 2,500 ohms. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to use a 49-to-1 auto transformer, which there's a guy that named Steve Ellington on YouTube who has videos. So I'd recommend you look at those. I'm using the My Antennas commercial model. Now, the beauty of these things, I love this antenna. And one of the big reasons, and it has no traps in it at all. It's just a straight 130-foot piece of wire out of the 49-to-1 auto transformer. I run 100 and some feet of cable around the house to it. But the guys up in Atlanta that I talk to frequently tell me I've got the loudest signal in the whole net. We talk, a bunch of us get together, a bunch of them are around Atlanta, and I'm of course here at Fort Myers, and I talk on that thing, and they tell me I'm one of the loudest signals there, and even though they're 600 miles away. So it's a good antenna. And the beauty of these end-fed antennas, this one you're showing here has traps in it, and I'm not sure why, because this thing.
It's because it's the graphic I chose. I mean, I'm pleading ignorance here on some of this stuff. I don't.
It's all right. It's a springboard for discussion, but this thing, the beauty of it, you can't feed if you go and feed a center fed dipole, say on 80 meters at 40, you're going to get extremely high. You're going to get your SWR because your impedance point at the center is going to be way up in the stratosphere. Well, instead of doing it there and you feed it at the end, it's so what? You got an auto transformer and you can feed even and odd harmonics. So I can use this antenna on 80, 40, 20, 15, and 10, all with no tuner, and the same antenna. So, and that's probably pretty neat to be able to jump from 80 to 40 to 20 and not have to change antennas. The other thing is you can tune I can use it to a limited extent on 12, 17, and 30. But you have to use the tuner in the radio. Now, most radio antenna tuners will handle a 3-to-1 SWR with no problem. So I have a external tuner as well, which will take me up to 10-to-1 SWR if I need it. About the only place I've ever needed that is at the upper part of the 75 meter band. Now, last night I used it and didn't need to tune it, but I've changed my antenna, moving from next door over to here. So we've got a couple of coils in it and everything else, but they heard me just fine. That's the point of the antenna. If it radiates, it's good. So that's all I got to say.
A comment about the end feds there, Ian.
Yeah, KC1 FLU, I will second that. I'm running an NFED at the shack up at the QTH up in Pennsylvania. And right now I've got the 40 through 10 up there, and absolutely the height of the feed point doesn't matter. I've got it about 10 foot off the ground on one of the posts on the deck, and I've got it almost vertical, believe it or not, because of the trees that are close enough to the house. This thing's probably up about 80 degrees, so it's pretty straight up, and no problem.
Oh yeah.
Talk to everybody, man. I mean, clear as a bell. It's almost like making a phone call, to be honest with you.
It's nice and quiet. That's
and exactly right. The auto tuner I've got an FTDX 1200 and an 897 Delta, and the internal tuners in both of those radios, they will tune within less than 3 seconds to that particular antenna. And when I was in New Hampshire on that antenna up there, that was the long wire at 165 footer. They would take about 3.5, 4 seconds to tune it up, but they would tune it up, and that one wasn't vertical, obviously, because it didn't have a 160-foot tree. But yeah, that was running an NVIS sort of situation.
This one's good.
Beautiful into Europe. If you want to make European contacts, that was the way to go with that antenna. It run it horizontal.
Yeah, and one of the contests last year with it, I talked to Slovenia. I talked to a guy in Italy during field day. So
yep.
Does it?
Yep, Slovenia, Italy, Eastern Europe. I had no problem with. My problem was the wave seemed to be too long for my QTH in New Hampshire. I couldn't get to like Spain and Portugal. It would like jump. It would seem to jump over those countries. But now that I've moved down to Pennsylvania, I'm hitting Spain and Portugal and the Canary Islands and all of Western Europe without a problem now. France and Germany and everything.
Are you running a commercially made antenna, or did you build it yourself?
No, I'm running a commercial built. One of the MFJ 1984s and 1986s.
Really?
What they call the mid power. So it says it'll handle up to 300 watts. I don't have an amp. I run barefoot, and I never run my rig. Either one of them, I never run over 90 watts. Maybe I'll push 95 if I'm trying to get through a pile up in a contest for 13 colonies. But other than that, I generally keep it between 50 and 75.
That's basically what I do. I'm running the My Antennas 1080 LP, the low power one, which is supposedly rated at 200 watts. I've never had any problems with it. It's just fine.
Yeah, no, the NFEDs are great. They're made out of, I think, 22 gauge black THHN wire. They throw up into a tree real fast and easy. You can drape them up over top of a palm tree to make an inverted V or a inverted L if you want to. And go hit your Florida State Parks contest, hit the Parks on the Air contest. They pack into a zippered pack that you would get your sheets at the store. If you go to Walmart or Bed Bath & Beyond, all the sheets come in those little zippered clear plastic pouches. Hold on to those, coil your antenna up and put those in there. It keeps it nice and neat, and so you don't have a whole bunch of tangled wire.
Sounds
all
good.
Right, and before we move on, I want to go to John. John had something.
Okay, so they purchase commercial made. I make these homemade all the time. I prefer, just for me, this is my preference, is I go with the 9-to-1 Unin, and I use an NFED that'll do 40 through 10, and it's only 29 feet long. And my one that does a better job going to 80 is 40. They recommend 43, but for my configuration, for some reason, it works better at 41. The other thing you can consider to do with these NFEDs with the 9-to-1, for example, so what it means is that the feed line at the end there, the wire is going to be 450 ohms. So you're using 9-to-1 to drop it to 50. So you can use your coax. Your coax becomes part of your counterpoise, and you recommended to have 25 feet on the ground of that, and then run some ferrites or something along it when it gets close to your radio, just in case you get any RF running back on you. But it's pretty easy to put up. But if you had to do it at your house, for example, there are guys that have done it where they run the antenna wire underneath the eave, for example, and then run about 40 feet off of the ground along the bottom of their house, around their house. And it'll kind of, you can see it kind of makes a dipole that way, and they're able to use it. I will tell you with my 9-to-1 Unin, I do not even have to use my internal tuner if I don't want to, and I can go, like I say, 10 through 80. Every once in a while on the work bands, like 12, sometimes you have to use it. But again, the internal tuner has no trouble dealing with it because it's usually less than 3 to 1. So, and I make my own. I wrap my own toroids and everything.
Yeah.
Dave, quick question for you. This is Leo Casey, 1FLU. Are you running quarter wave or half wave lengths for your antennas? Did you say quarter wave?
If you're talking to me, Leo, I use random, completely random off.
Yeah, he's running the random thing. I know what you're talking about. That's the 9 to 1. That's kind of like
Okay.
the antenna. Yeah, I know what that is.
I gotcha.
I haven't had as much luck with those as I've had with these, but that's, each ham has his own mind, and does.
If you've been to field day when I've been out there, I run that antenna right there at the field day.
Yeah. Okay.
Another antenna you'll get to see at field day. I'm trying, John. I'm trying to get everybody there, I swear. Okay. Let's see. The next one is the 6-band HF center-loaded off-center fed dipole antenna. We're talking about the off-center fed dipole antenna here. And who would like to start us off on this one? Yeah, you're right. This one sucks.
Well, no, I'll say something.
I'm totally kidding. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. A lot of guys run a similar antenna to this. The G5 RVs are similar to this. There's a whole bunch of them out there. The Carolina Wyndham's similar to this.
And I got that one coming up.
Fed. It's just changing the feed point, which what Rick talked about earlier was changing the impedance. So you're changing the impedance by the links, and you're making adjustments to that. And there's your Carolina Wyndham, which you have up there. The difference between this one is, look, it's got really 2 ballons, right? It's got a 4 to 1 ballon up higher, and you got a line insulator or choke, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
But you got to get that 25 feet or so of, well, they're using RG58. I've only seen them done with ladder line. So I've seen them use the ladder line to come down and then around. I know a guy in the club runs one of these.
Okay. Anything else on the off center fed dipole, or the New Carolina Wyndham? These were both mentioned by one person each on the net that they were using these as well. Like I said,
yes, Ian, the Carolina Wyndham. You can actually use your aluminum gutters on your house to make an off-center fed Carolina Wyndham if you want to. There's a guy out there. November 6 Charlie is his call sign. He's got an n6cc.com website, and he does stealth HOA antennas. And one of the things he does is he loads up his aluminum 80-foot gutters and a 17-foot aluminum canoe on top of his truck. Go check out the website. It's comical. It's comical, but it works. It works.
Get into all that in the next segment. We're definitely going to get into all that here in the next segment, where we're going to talk about gutters, because there's a few things in there on that. All right. Anything else on either the off center fed dipole or the Carolina Wyndham? All right, we're going to keep moving here. The next thing we're going to start, or the last thing I want to mention is there's 2 other kinds of omnidirectional antennas that aren't used as much for HF, so we're not going to spend a lot of time on them tonight. And those are your ground plane and your J-pole antennas. Just put them in here so we don't miss them. Now we're going to talk about directional antennas. Directional antennas have the pattern on the right there, as my wife calls it, the Tweety Bird pattern. I guess it does look like Tweety Bird from the back. I don't know. But anyway, so there you go. That's the pattern for a Yagi right there. And well, let's talk about the Yagi. My favorite antenna, of course, is the Yagi. And I've built about 100 of these for, and that's an exaggeration. I've built about 15 of these for VHF and UHF. And I love building Yagis, but I haven't built one yet for HF. So I'd like to throw this out there, and for anybody who'd like to talk about using the Yagi design for HF. All right, so you just basically point it, and there you go. I will tell you that, what I learned about Yagis is just this. They're, for every bit of a pain in the butt that they are to build and hang and make work and spin and everything else, boy, you get it all back in gain. Oh, boy. I love me some Yagi. All right, well, enough said. Everybody knows about these. We don't need to spend a lot of time here. but I think we're going to see at least one of these tomorrow at field day as well. I think it's going to be on our tower trailer, right? I think that's what we're using on the tower trailer, is a trap vertical or a trap Yagi, something like that. Anyway, this is another one we're not going to spend a lot of time on, but this was mentioned by someone that's working up there with the long periodic antenna, which is kind of cool. It's basically a Yagi, but each of the
elements.
what do you want to call it? Each of the elements are graduated in size, and so I just wanted to mention that in there. But again, I don't think this one's used a whole lot with HF. This one is the one that's probably got my biggest interest right now, because you know me, I'm a directional antenna guy. I want to build this or buy this and throw it up on top of my antenna, and I want to be able to spin this thing around, because doing FT8, I want to be able to see, if I see a guy in Japan, I want to be able to spin this thing and aim it right at him, you know. And right now I'm just shooting it up in the air, and you know, it's kind of, I'm in military terms, I'm using spray and pray, and I would much rather be directional here, where I can try to work one section or work this area, or try to get it to go where I need it to go. So this is what I've been looking at. So I'm anxious to hear what the panel tonight has to say about the hex beam. Who would like to go first? Is anybody using this?
I know somebody who's using one of these, and of course,
We'll count that. Go ahead.
Okay. Now, he said, now you can buy these if you go out and get a kit or buy one of these, that you can get them like 20 through 10 meters, or you get to 20 through 6 meters. The guy that really manufacturers says that you're better off with the 20 through 10 meter model, because the 6 meter seems to detract a bit from everything else. I don't know why that is, but your best bet is to go with 20 through 10. In other words, 20, 17, 15, 12, and 10 meters, and you get real good results that way. Now, this is an antenna that I've considered putting up myself. So it's, I don't know if I'm going to do one or not, but as the sunspot cycle picks back up, the directionality would be a great help. And you do not need the size rotator that you would need with, say, one of your big TH6DXX or what's the other, not Force 12. I'm trying to think what are the other big beam. There's a number of them out there, but you don't need a ham M to run one of these. Just an overgrown, the least expensive, not the least expensive rotors, but you don't need as big a rotor. So there's a lot of stuff on the web about these.
What is the overall diameter for what we're looking at right here, for a point to point for a 40 meter antenna?
The 40 meter version, which is big, it's 42 foot across.
Yeah.
42 feet. The 20 meter would be about half of that, so about 21 feet across, if you just go with the one that goes up to 20. If you want to build one that goes up to 80, that's going to be about 84 feet across.
Oh, I'm gonna have to buy the neighbor's property to do that.
Yeah, what's that?
Yeah, I mean,
I've only got an acre and a half now. I don't have the 6 acres I used to.
Yeah. What's that great big upside down umbrella thing you got up, you know?
That's what it looks like, is you're out in the wind with your umbrella and it got ripped off.
You're right. You're right. It does.
Yeah, and I can also make a few sci-fi references too. I mean, it looks like a few ships I think we fought at some point in the Federation. I'm not sure, but yeah. So I like this one. I want to try this one because I want to get into directional stuff, and I don't know. I just think this could be the best of both worlds for daytime stuff. It's not going to do much for you at night.
No.
Unless you, at least maybe if you get the 40 one, I guess. But
plus 20's open at night, which can be sometime.
Yeah.
KD0 VMM Bruce, I'm up in Missouri. I use one of these. I bought commercially, and my Elmer uses one that he built himself. Both of us really like them.
Yeah.
Very nice.
What are you using for rotators?
I've just got a cheap TV rotator.
Yeah. I'm not surprised.
I can't believe it weighs that much.
I don't think it weighs very much at all. Maybe with that 40 meters on it, it would bring the weight up another 20 pounds.
Yeah, and the other nice thing about it is it's a fairly balanced load sitting up there too.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I've got a small home, and it might take up a third of the roof space up there, but nothing else is up there.
It's sky. We got to do something with it.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's mine.
How high above the ground does it have to be directional?
I would like it to be up higher than what it is. It's only up maybe 20 feet, but it's directional. It works.
Yeah.
I'd like it to, like all of us, we want it to be up higher.
Yeah, I think they say that you can put them 20, 25 feet above the ground and you've got good directionality and it works well. Your optimum height, I think, is 40, 45 feet, but that's a little harder to do.
Right. And if I would go that high, I would want a better rotator for it also.
Yeah.
So in case it would break, I wouldn't have to climb up there.
Yeah, I believe that.
I just
All right,
don't-
last call on the hex.
Amen.
Go ahead.
All right. The next one I want to talk about is something I know absolutely nothing about. I haven't even read about it yet, but this was recommended by several people. It's the Moxon Antenna. I guess that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
And it's basically just a rectangle. There
Right.
you go. Has anybody got any experience with these? I even think I have another set of slides. There we go.
There you go.
That's kind of your setup there.
I didn't know you could do that with those.
I wish they wouldn't put all those European measurements on there.
Yeah, then you have to either get out the calculator or try to do the arithmetic.
Yeah. Actually, I don't mind converting it. I just like to complain. All right. So there you go. I don't know anything about these either, but this is something else to maybe look into.
I would think that would work equivalent. You could probably do a 5-element and it would work equivalent probably to the hex beam. Just my guess.
All
Believe it
right.
or not, they're all dipoles.
Yeah, it's all kind of it's all a whole different, it's basically just a different configuration on the same basic design.
Yeah.
All right. Now the next section of the night, we're going to be taking a deep dive into how to hide your antenna from your condo, Karen. And this is probably the most important part of our discussion tonight, because the only thing that ruins propagation more than the atmosphere is Karens. So anyway, if you have a large group of Karens, that's called a homeowners association. So, okay.
Wow.
Basically what we're going to do now is I want you guys to impart all of your knowledge on helping people get their antennas up there when they're not really supposed to put their antennas up there. The first one, and probably most popular, I think I had 7 different people using the flagpole antenna. Some were built, some were homebrewed, and others were purchased. You can buy this as an entire kit and install it in the ground, and the wire comes out underneath the ground and can go in, and you go out and bury it at 2 in the morning when Karen's asleep. If your wife's named Karen,
I use a flagpole. I use a flagpole, KC1FLU. I use a flagpole for my 2 meter 70 centimeter stuff here. I use a collapsible flagpole that I bought at Harbor Freight, and I put the stick on the very top of it, and I hang a American flag off of it, and no one says anything in the neighborhood.
It's fallen out of favor to give people a hard time about flagpoles right now. And many places will let you put a flagpole up when they won't let you put anything else up. So this is a great option.
Absolutely.
And if they tell you no, then you just start. You can imagine what kind of stink you can make. What, are you not a patriot? It's a flagpole.
Now there's court cases on this. That's why they can't stop them. They can still make you get approval, but they can't stop them.
Yeah, it's a state
So
law.
when all else fails, I mean, this might be an option for you. The hardest part you're going to have literally is going out there at night and burying your lineup or whatever, so that the yard people don't see it. But But this is definitely a good option. And the diagram here, this one actually shows a pretty in-depth one here, where they actually have got a coil in there, and it's for HF and the whole bit. So I don't know. But there's a lot of people using these. They seem to be the way to go. The next one.
Yeah, and if they ask what the wire's for, just tell them it's for lightning protection. It's a path to ground for lightning protection.
Oh, there you go. That's
Lightning arrestor.
There you go. Because we wouldn't want lightning.
You do have to put up a radial field for those flagpoles.
Oh, you put some radials out?
Yeah, about 12 of them.
Oh, wow.
This is KJ4 Whiskey Papa Victor. I have a flagpole antenna in my front yard for UHF, VHF.
And it works good for you?
Oh, works fantastic. It's up about 30 feet, and I can hit Naples, and I get way out to even DeSoto County. I can really go a long ways with it.
Yeah, I've got my flagpole. I've got a Diamond X50 on top of it with the non-ground plane 3 radios that came from the factory, and I can hit Clewiston on about 45 watts from here. So all the way out to Big Lake Amateur Radio Club out there, I can pop all those, and I can get up over Port Charlotte and down into Naples fusion stuff with no issues whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm running with the Diamond X50A also. Yeah.
So I mean, if you've got a little money to put in the project, this flagpole antenna, it might be the way to go with the least amount of hassle, depending on what you're trying to do. The next one is the attic mounted antenna. I am surprised the number of people running Yagis in their attic to get to local VHF repeaters. A lot of people, 3 or 4 people just put their hand up. I know it's I was kind of surprised. There's a guy I talked to up in Punta Gorda, and he had an array of antennas up there, and they just re-roofed his condo, and they went to metal roofs.
Oh, great.
He's done.
No. He's not done. He's actually in really, really good shape.
Really?
My QTH up in New Hampshire, we put a standing seam metal roof on that house, and what I did was pass the wire out the eaves, and I loaded up the metal roof panels. And I used the roof as a flat directional radiator.
Yeah.
Well, not flat, but on a 45-degree pitch angle. Yeah. Unfortunately, the only access I had at pointed east all I could get was Europe, but I got to Europe on 100 watts, 90 watts, but yeah, it works. Take advantage of the metal roof panels. What's that?
Why don't you install a rudder?
What, rotate my house?
No, what you do is you hook up the roof on all 4 sides, and you put a 4-way antenna switch in.
Oh, sure. Now you tell me after I sell the place and move to Pennsylvania. Thanks a lot, guys. It could have saved me a lot of hassle. 27,000 pounds of stuff on a moving truck.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Just use the metal roof as your antenna.
You could actually have a phased array.
Folks,
you're right. You know what? You are absolutely right with that. Yeah. So fear not, metal roof owners.
Well, there you go. And I also was surprised the number of people that told me that they have very little signal loss caused by the non-conductive roof components. That there really is none. They're shooting it out. They're getting just about as good as if they put it out in the yard. So that's kind of surprising, but that's nice.
Does that include a concrete roof tiles? There are no problems with that. No loss with a concrete roof tiles.
No, I don't think so. I mean, any density, you're going to have a slight amount, but we're talking little bits.
No kidding.
I can speak to that. I put a lot of attic antennas in, everything from VHF, UHF to HF. And I've done HF. I like fan dipoles on HF in the attic because you can spin them all over the place. David over in Gateway, I helped him do a 40-20. I don't know if we did 40-20-10. I can't remember what we did, but he had the tile roof and it was fine. The only thing you got to watch out for when you put it in an attic, well, there's lots of things to worry about, like don't fall through. But for the antenna, you got to make sure it doesn't have that foil-looking vapor barrier on it. That foil's bad news. That will cut you down. And you can't do like in Leo's case, use it for a ground plane. It doesn't work like that because obviously it's that thin stuff on the inside.
Yeah, you can't put a screw into that stuff. No way, John.
No. The other bad thing about the attic, just to be honest with you, is obviously if it's low, it's hard to work up there. And in Florida, it's so cool up there in August, right, that even in the morning, it's misery. And I've done attic antennas in August. It's tough. But what I'm saying is the nice thing about using a fan in the attic, if you're going to do HF, is you can wind it all around up there, provided you can move around, provided it's got enough height for you to move around. That's really the key. And then you just got to tune it up, and that takes 2 people.
All right. Yeah. And I noticed the upper left picture there. That's actually a loop that they've got up there. I mean, you can put any of these antennas that we've showed from the simple dipole all the way up to a loop or anything up there, really.
Yeah, it looks like a loop of copper tubing that you could just grab at Home Depot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, remember, guys, just keep it simple. Field expedient antennas. Have fun, play around. That's why we all do this, right?
That's it. All right. And then the next one, gutter mounting. In this case here in the upper left picture, what they're doing is they're replacing one piece of the downspout with a piece of plastic downspout. So that way the uprights or the downspouts are not charged. And then, of course, it's mounted to the wood all the way around the house. So they're basically just loading up the actual gutter itself is what they're doing here. And that's basically what they're showing there is they got a piece of plastic to go in there so that the downspouts are not charged, basically.
So, I got another comment about the one on the right, the broadband butterfly.
Yeah.
So Artist Kitchens and Artist wanted to do this at his house, and unfortunately we haven't had a chance to hook it up yet, but he wanted to try this, and we went ahead and ran the wire all the way around, and he got the 1,000 ohm resistors. We're kind of interested to see how this works. This is actually wire underneath your overhang, your eaves. And his eaves happen to be that, I think it's that vinyl stuff. So that might be a way to do it, but we haven't tried it yet. Like I say, it's been kind of hard to connect up together to get it taken care of, but we are looking at doing something like that. So that should be interesting.
Yeah, Ian, that picture that you have on the upper left and the lower right of that screen, that actually comes from that gentleman that I mentioned before at November6CharlieCharlie.com. He does a lot of HOA stealth antennas and long wire antennas, a lot of CW low power work. His website is pretty informative for folks that want to hide an antenna from the HOAs. That you might want to also get yourself a copy of the Marine Corps radio manual. It will tell you how to build all kinds of crazy simple wire antennas and throw them up in trees and hide stuff. And, hey, just remember, don't draw attention to yourself. It tends to tick off those in the foxhole next to you. So,
you trick the enemy, in this case, the Homeowner Association. That's pretty good.
You got that right. Absolutely right. I mean, they have nothing better to do than to tell you what to do.
Right.
The enemy is Karen, and she doesn't eat and she doesn't sleep. She's outside your home right now with a clipboard.
I used to live in an apartment up in Atlanta, and I didn't have any way. There were no trees around this apartment, and there was no way to put up an antenna. So I got up at 3:30 in the morning and got a fishing pole and threw a sinker over the roof and pulled over a about 35, 40 foot piece of number 26 telephone wire that was the same color as the roof. They never did find that antenna.
Yeah, and I will mention that you can paint wire, but you just have to make sure that you're not using a paint that has metallic in it. Yeah, because if you paint something the same color as what you're putting it up against, you won't even see it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the roof mounted antenna. And there's just a couple of examples here of some different roof mounted type antennas. The one there on the upper left is a tile roof where they basically just have it laying right on the tiles. And then some different ones there where they're using like a little standoffs basically to bring it above the surface of the roof there. But some different ideas there. And then this is some other crazy ideas I found. The upper left one here, the guy's got it on a swing arm, kind of like the gate at an old military checkpoint. And when he wants to go on to HF, he just walks out there and stands it upright, and he talks on the HF. And as soon as he's done, he walks out there and just lays it back down again. And that's all that is. The upper right is actually a loop antenna that's stuck on somebody's wall inside their house. And that works as long as you don't have cheap PC speakers anywhere around. And there's another one there where you can do the same loop basic setup on the ceiling in your home too. You could try that. If you can't even get in your attic, maybe you can't even get in your attic, you could literally just with thumbtacks tack up some really thin wire inside and just irradiate the heck out of yourself. And then the lower right down there, you can barely see. There's actually a product they sell that is, they call it sock, camo sock. And you feed the wire through the camo sock and it lays on the ground and the leaves cover it up and you can't see the wire anymore. It's pretty cool, but it's called camo sock. And then the left two pictures, these are both small antennas that were painted the same color to match the tree or whatever else is around. And then they were literally mounted in a tree. So that's just some different ideas there. Does anybody have any comments on any of these or some other ideas that are similar?
Well, yes, I have an antenna. That's the one that, every time I'm using it, I got to go outside and shove it in the ground. And then when I'm finished, I got to go back and take it out. So that's why I'm not on the net all the time, because, sometimes during the day, depends who's driving around. And because I'm trying to put it up as high as I can. So I go up sometimes like 25 feet, with the tip sticking above the roof line, and it does reflect and you can see it, even though I put it on the side of the house as close as possible, but so far I've had it now for a little over a month. No one has bothered me. Okay. But I found out that with most HOAs, at least that's the way it is with mine as well. And I found out that with most HOAs, if the antenna is a temporary fixture, then it's classified as let's say, in the same way as your Christmas decorations. It's there only for a while. And if you go in and take it down, in some instances, even if you take it down once or twice a month, you'll be able to get away with it. And for the rest of the time, you can keep it up. I'm kind of building my nerve, because as the time goes on, I'm going to try and keep it up for a longer and a longer and a longer time and see how long I can get away with it by keeping it up. But right now, I'm keeping it coy. And by the way, it works fantastic. I bought one of those that, I paid actually $100. It's like a pole that you have clips and it just slides up and you slide it back up and it works great.
You're like a push-up pole.
Yeah.
You can also do, you can also run what they call a flower pot antenna. You disguise it in a flower pot on your balcony or out on your lanai, and just put some plastic plants, wrapped around your antenna feed going up, and it looks like a vine growing up in the air. Put a little plastic trellis there so it looks like the vine is climbing up and your antenna is hidden inside of it. Or if you want a roll-up J-pole, there's several plans out on the internet to use coax or either coax or parallel line. Not necessarily, but you can do it with 450. But there's a guy out there, Ed Fong, F-O-N-G. Check out his plans. He's got some simple stuff that'll connect up to HTs through BNC connectors. little soldering skills and some wire and some heat shrink, make a real nice antenna that radiates very well for only a couple of bucks on your end.
Yeah, and some other things here that I found. Weather vane, if you're allowed to have one of those, it can be an antenna.
Yeah.
Another thing, Directv antennas, they have to be allowed now. They have to give you space for Sky for Directv now. So, but sometimes they'll give you like a group antenna or whatever, but that might be an avenue. If you've got a Directv dish outside your building, you can put your antenna on the back of it. Nobody would ever notice. There's some other ones here. The lower left looks like a clothesline, doesn't it? Or is it a hex vertical or whatever it is, a hex beam? Who knows? But yeah, you could build something like that. And then of course, there's your two planters you were just talking about.
Yep. There's the flower pots, right? Yeah.
There's your flower pots. Basically what he did was he painted the antenna green and then let a vine grow up it or whatever.
Ian?
Yeah.
Or even just use plastic vine.
Yeah, check out the website of W6NBC. He's written numerous articles in QST, and one of the things he likes to do is build a slot antenna. And he built one out of a Directv dish, particularly one of the oblong ones. I've got one of those here, but I didn't build the antenna. But you cut a slot in the antenna dish, in the satellite dish, and it's a horizontal slot, but of course it's a vertically polarized antenna. Works great on 2 meters.
Oh, wow. Now there's an idea.
W6NBC is the guy's call.
Yeah, I've actually pulled it up. I'm going to look at it afterwards. I've got like 7 sites you guys have given me. I just pull them up over here on a tab so I can look at them later and add it to the information for tonight. Also on this one, there's like a flower pot. You could put your little quarter wave in your little flower pot and just run the little wire up and run it in the house.
Like a Hummingbird feeder.
Do what?
Hummingbird feeder.
Yeah, Hummingbird feeders. There's one of those there. You can do that with that. And then the lower right one there, that's John's van. I put that up there so that you guys could see that. No, that's not John's van. I'm just kidding. But the reason I put that van there, this is something a lot of people haven't thought about. You can put an antenna on your car and then just run the wire into your house. And now you've got a ground plane and an antenna sitting out there, and the HOA can't say nothing about it. Just thinking. All right.
Well, yeah, KC1FLU here. That's what I mentioned about that one gentleman out there. He uses a 17-foot aluminum canoe on the roof of his little Jeep and runs the wire inside his house, and it transmits just fine.
Yeah. So there is literally a lot of options here. There's some other ones here. You know those aluminum crutches that you get from the hospital every time you sprain your ankle? They make a great 6-meter antenna. And or you could use 2 light bulbs, or maybe the tops off of 2 barbecue grills. Any of that stuff will make an antenna too. So I just wanted to put that stuff out there. And this is the button I'm getting that my wife's going to make me wear because she thinks I'm running an antenna farm here. She calls it an aluminum farm.
Yeah.
But anyway, just thought I'd share that stuff with you there. And there you go. It's the end. Please tip your waiter. And stay around because tomorrow night we're serving veal. And that's about it. Guys, field days tomorrow.
Can I make a comment before you take off?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Okay, just one last thing. One of the things, and I was talking to you about this the other day, Ian, as somebody who plays with antennas all the time, I'm just going to throw this out to you guys. I don't care if you buy Times Microwave LMR 400 or you buy the crap antenna cable, you know, always test your cable before you use it. You know, in other words, put a dummy load on one end, throw your tuner, you know, throw your radio on the other that has an SWR meter in it, or a tuner, an antenna tuner, because I've run into more problems helping people put antennas up, including myself, with brand new cable that was already like 1.4 to 1. So you're already starting off on a bad foot, and it's usually because the cable's kind of crummy. You might think it's the best that's ever out there. By the way, I love Times Microwave LMR 400. What I'm saying though is, I don't care if it is that. Double check it to make sure that it's actually sitting at 50 ohms, because otherwise you're just going to be fighting a battle down the road. That's kind of a tip for everybody. If you get a chance to do that, I always do it. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks, Sarah. Ian.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, and I'm
Ian,
not
I'll
rushing
second
off
that
here.
too.
We've got plenty of, I'm not rushing off, guys. We've got plenty of time. I didn't mean to make it sound like I was closing the net. We're not, we've got plenty of time here to continue talking about any of this stuff you guys want to talk about.
Hey, Ian,
Yeah, go ahead.
your last slide there, you had an antenna on the lower left-hand corner. Yeah, that one over there that looks like two barbecue grills tied together.
Yeah.
That's called the tack antenna. And I've heard good things about it. It's like, that's probably a 20-meter version there, but those are only just a few feet apart, and guys have tried those, and apparently they work pretty well. It's a commercial antenna, a little bit expensive, but you can build one pretty easy.
Well, that's what I'm looking at now. It looks like that that's just one long piece of wire that's wound around and around and around. So that could be like a 40-meter antenna or whatever.
Oh yeah, could be. That's a spiral antenna, and
Yeah.
apparently they work pretty well. Now,
Right.
he doesn't work real, you know, he needs to be up the same height as any other antenna, but you know, it's still, I haven't tried one of these and have been wanting to try it. So maybe here before long I give it a try, but that looks like that's probably a 20 or 40-meter version there. But people work these out of condos and that kind of place and had pretty good luck with them.
Well, I'm looking at it. I could build that. That's not a problem. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm literally thinking I just need the little pieces to hold the thing on and some PVC, and I could build that.
Yeah, it's called the tack antenna. That's after the guy that designed that. I think it's WA2TAK is his call.
That's cool. That's cool. Yep. We could build antennas. We could literally build antennas once a week for the rest of our lives and still not build them all.
Yeah.
All right.
Ian, KC1FLU here. Yeah, Ian, I just wanted to say thank you for this. This was perfect timing for Winter Field Day. So that everybody sort of gets these things in their mind, and some of the guys that have them bring them out and set them up, and let the rest of us see it. Last year I went to Winter Field Day as doing a cooking work, and I sat down with John Provenzano and picked up a new skill of doing a digital work when I was logging for him for about 15-20 minutes. Come on out and play with this stuff. John Wells, he's got, John, you had that little Yaesu Xiegu sort of micro HF radio thing that you had that would almost fit in your shirt pocket, and that intrigued the daylights out of me. Still haven't bought one. I'm still thinking about it, but yeah, very interesting. Guys, come on out. We've got I think they said we're going to bring some frequency analyzers out there as well as spectrum analyzers. So if you're not sure if your rig is tuned up properly, they're going to have them out. It's a free service. We got everybody at one spot. Come on out and enjoy. We got plenty of good food. I'm cooking it all up tonight. The ZD just came out of the oven for the overnight operators tomorrow night. So come on out and enjoy the food, enjoy some camaraderie, and maybe pick up a new skill set. It doesn't cost nothing. It's free.
I actually, I'm going to be working a lot with John, AA4JS. But I also, I'm wanting to do some multipliers, pick up some multipliers. I'm also wanting to work some of the other digital modes that I haven't worked yet. So maybe I'm a little ambitious, but I'm wanting to sample all the different offerings over the weekend if I can.
They have it all there. There are guys doing everything from QRP CW to high power 80-meter stuff. This is what we should be. Unfortunately, I know John is trying with the PIO work to get people interested in it, but if it's not quick, fast, and easy, they don't want to know about it these days, unfortunately, because it takes thought and education. So, but hey, we catch a convert every once in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, boy, I wish we had a friend in the local media.
I'll do whatever you guys want me to do. But yeah, I will tell you that I think that maybe not with this one because for various reasons with COVID and this and that, but coming up in the future, I think we'll see a lot more of that kind of involvement with the media and stuff. I'm big on recruiting. You guys know I ran the volunteer program. I was a paid member that ran the volunteer program at a fire department for many years, and recruiting was our number one thing. Recruiting and fundraising was what we did at our station. I mean, that was what we did most of the time: recruiting and fundraising, and every now and then a fire. That's just this is all the kind of stuff that I keep thinking about with this club is, you know, we've got to start focusing our attentions more on that kind of stuff too, on recruiting new people into this hobby. You know, it's sad if you Google like amateur radio failing hobby, you get a lot of articles. There's a lot of people writing that crap, and I don't believe it for a minute. But I do believe it's incumbent upon all of us to help not let that happen. And I think we do need to recruit. We've got a lot of people signing up for the test lately, and I'm hoping we get a bunch of new people in.
You're right on that one, Ian, for sure. Recruiting is the big thing. I mean, I will say this because I am one. I'm an old fat white guy who plays with radios, and that is sort of, you know, the stereotype for our hobby. Unfortunately, we need to get some young blood in, and from what I've seen in the modulator and the newsletters and emails up north, it looks like we're getting a good crop of technicians coming in. There always seem to be some guys signing up and getting new stuff. So, you know, maybe there's a little bit of a silver lining to this whole pandemic thing where folks are starting to rely a little less and on the internet and starting to prep up a little bit more. You know, we don't need any, you know, nutty crazy preppers, but yeah, somebody wants to have some communications and, you know, hey, what happens when the cell towers go down? You know, what happens when a hurricane comes through and you know, they can't communicate. You know, the best example was, I guess, Hurricane Matthew came through here a couple of years ago, you know, through the Panhandle, and Jim Cantori and his crew were taking welfare messages from people walking up to them, just getting on TVs, letting their relatives know that they were okay. Yep. And, you know, the problem is that the Aries folks had not been either given a go-ahead to go into the area or been well enough organized. I'm not sure which, and I won't pretend to point fingers each way, but, you know, they weren't there. So they use that as that opportunity to get their welfare messages out. And, you know, hey, the sticker says it all. When all else fails, ham radio works. We are all evident of that.
Our VE sessions, every one this year has been full. We put an extra one on this month. We've already put an extra one on next month, and they are all full. By the way, last night we had a good night. We had all 6 of our applicants passed. So 4 new technicians in the community, 1 upgrade to general, and 1 gentleman who had expired like 15 years ago took his technician exam and got his extra privileges back. So people are getting interested in the hobby. We're booked out on sessions, extra sessions. We're going to have extra sessions in March as well. We've already got February, 2 sessions in February full. Wow. So the hobby is growing. It's just that we need to get people involved in the hobby and get them in the club. You know, the guy that gets licensed and buys a radio and puts it in a drawer for emergencies, is doing us all a disservice, because if there is an emergency and this guy with no experience gets on the air, all he's going to do is screw things up. And that's why we have to get those people involved in the hobby, you know, for whatever reasons they're getting into it. At least then they know what they're doing when they get on the air.
And John, that's why I keep coming back to ham coaching, because all these people, we keep certifying them, but they don't join the group. They don't come on the repeaters. We never hear from them. And not all, there's some obviously that do, but I can't wait to be able to sit down with people and excite them in the hobby before we even let them go. You know, it seems like we're just, I don't know. I just think it's going to be so awesome when we can capture these people right at that moment when they just passed and they're excited. Say, here's a radio. It's already programmed. Let's talk on the radio. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's do that. And get them right involved in something right away. And I think that's going to make all the difference in the world. Do you guys know that 80% of the people that take their technician class never pay their first $20 for the FMARC?
Yeah, it's not
That's
good.
Really, that's disappointing.
That's very disappointing. And it's not that anybody's doing anything wrong. It's just we need to do more to get them to get them excited about it and into it right at that moment where they get their license. That's the important thing. It's real easy for someone to get the license and then go home and say, yeah, I'll figure it out later. Yeah, I'll figure it out tomorrow. You know, I'll figure it out. I'm gonna. No, it's different when you hand somebody a radio and say, look, this works. You can talk to us right now.
Ian, I'm gonna. This is Leo. Leo 1, Casey 1 FLU. Let me throw a suggestion out there, just for food for thought for everybody. When we have these classes, do we have a setup? Do we have maybe a net night when we have the VE sessions, so that, you know, when these guys are done and they're passed, that we have a net set up to maybe get them right onto a radio, you know, in the EOC, like, here's a mic, talk to some of the guys, get them right on the air immediately.
That's my plan, because I got my license at the traffic light, getting ready to go over the bridge in the North Fort Myers. I went on and checked the site at the traffic light, and I got my call letters at a traffic light. And I'm thinking, wouldn't it have been cool if someone would have handed me, even if I gave them $20 for it or whatever, a Bofang programmed, and said, on your way home, we're going to have a practice net right now. And then tomorrow morning, when the traffic net starts, there's no vapor lock. They've already done it. It's that's the gap we got to bridge, folks. Of all these gaps, and there's a lot of gaps, the gap that I think is the most important is the gap between you passed first transmission on the radio.
You're right. Yeah, between the pass and transmission, absolutely right. I mean, I got my tech license and my general license within the same month. The studying wasn't very hard. I just, took a few minutes every morning and studied every day, and went and took the exam at the Hamfest up in New Hampshire that 1 year, and bang, next thing you knew, within 30 days, I had my general license. I haven't lit myself up yet or anyone else yet. One or two speaker problems, like you mentioned, but other than that, no big deal.
Yeah.
Hey guys, Dan, KD7ACB here. How well can you hear me on this setup? Can you hear me okay?
Marvelous.
Yeah, you sound fine.
Yeah, I'm on a headset here that I've never used on Zoom, so just wanted to make sure. But I got a comment on that, closing that gap between passing and getting on the radio. So when I first was introduced to ham radio by my grandfather, his call is the one that I have now, KD7ACB. He's the one that got me into all this. He did one better. So I went out there one summer to visit him, and he introduced me to it. And, we went to a club meeting and did a couple of activities. So, all right. So I went out there for a week to visit him, and then went on, it was getting time to go back home. And he said, okay, so here's the technician manual, and here's a radio. Now you can listen, but you can't talk until you pass the test. So take the book home, study it, and when you pass that test, then you can talk. So there was that incentive to, and we programmed it up. We sat in his living room a couple of days before it was time for me to leave, and we programmed it up with all the frequencies or most of the frequencies in the Kansas City area. So I could turn around and listen to all the different repeaters and what was going on, all that stuff, and studied the book, passed the test, and never looked back. So my grandfather made sure I had that radio in my hand and could, listen and see what was going on out there before I even took the test. So he
And you, unfortunately, you had a coach that was there to help you.
right.
I'm going from my experience when I came in, I didn't know anybody. All my friends in ham radio, I've met all you guys since June. I mean, I don't
Sure.
know, I don't know a single ham radio operator anywhere other than before I got my ticket. So for me, it was important. And that is why I did this whole TechNet thing. And that's why I'm doing the ham coaching thing, if they'll let me, is because I'm wanting to bridge these gaps. I'm wanting to make it better. Anyway, I don't have anything else. Does anybody have anything else they want to discuss? There's still 15 of us in here. We got up to 40.
No, you know what, Ian, this is Leo. I think this is actually a really good topic, and it might be worthy of further discussion later on. Is how did you get into ham? I mean, my personal experience is my father was in the United States Army during the 60s as a communications operator. And he signed up for back when you used to have an FCC CB license. I still got the call sign for him, tattooed on the radio that he had, and that was sort of my first experience with two-way communications. And it really came about with me, being in my hunting club, and us wanting to use radios to communicate back and forth in the woods to know where guys were. And I said, the FRS stuff just wasn't making it. And so I said, well, let me get my ham license, see what I could do with that. And the guys can't use that because they don't have a ham license either. So let me try, MERS or GMRS. I'm like, oh, that doesn't work. They don't have a license for that. And I discovered MERS, and I'm like, oh, we can use that. So it leads into a whole bunch of different areas, but it's really about getting on the air. And if you start out, I know a lot of ham radio operators look down on CB. We all call it the chicken band and the crap band and all that stuff. But if that's what a guy can afford, and that's what a guy can start with to learn how to use the equipment and tune an antenna and set up a rig and start doing some of the physical technical stuff, that's a good way. Maybe encourage that a little bit, but like we've talked about, just now, is get a radio into a guy's hand. Get those Bofang cheap radios. They're what, $30 for a UV5R.
$19.
$19. There you go. Okay. For the little 4-water, marvelous. Get those going. Get the guys out. Like, use it as a hook. We'll give you a free radio if you show up at Winter Field Day, or if you show up at Parks on the Air or Florida State Parks on the Air or Summer Field Day. Show up, we'll give you a radio. This way they can see the other rigs set up, and okay, they might not be able to afford it. Not everybody has the money for some of this stuff, but you can buy stuff used on Craigslist. You can buy it from, the club used.
Well, this is all part of that proposal that I gave to the board, and they're working on it. I think
it's a wonderful idea. I will endorse it 100%. Getting the hardest part is everybody has microphone fright, stage fright. We all do. The first time you have to get up and do public speaking, public speaking is very daunting for a lot of folks. And even
we can fix this for most people right on that first night.
Yeah, we can. Even public speaking in your house, but on a mic where you can't see everybody, can be even more daunting for some folks. So, you're right. Let's fix that on that first night. Get them on there. Like, here's the 2 meter, 70 centimeter stuff, 125. Let's get that 220 working again. Maybe do 220 simplex in this area.
I don't know. I know that the club used to a couple of years ago, but does the club still have the Elmer program where they had a list of Elmers, and then
yes. Popeye is in charge of the Elmer program. I'm not sure. I've been away for almost a year now, so I'm not sure how active he is. But no, you're absolutely right. Tying a new ham to an old ham.
But see, here's the thing. The Elmer program, and the reason that I didn't propose to fix or change the Elmer program, and I proposed to start a new program, A, there's less resistance that way, but B, is because I don't think that the Elmer program is necessarily wrong or bad. I think it does fine. I think what I'm trying to do is different. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give you someone that is a 45 or 50-year-old guy that just got his license a year ago or 6 months ago, that is still enthusiastic, that's still going out there and getting it and trying to get new modes and new radios all the time. Those are the kind of people I'm looking for to be ham coaches. Not the guy that knows everything, that's been doing this since he was 60. You know what I'm saying? There's a place for that person. That's the guy that you call when you're having an issue that I can't help you with that. I'm a ham coach. I don't know anything about those HF antennas like that. You need to call the Elmer for that. He knows all about that crap. But I'm the guy that helps you get your FT8 installed in your computer, or get your Bofang programmed with Chirp, or, you know, I'm the guy that can, hey man, I didn't hear you on the net last night. Where were you? That's me. That's the ham coach.
Well, that's what I did with Headley.
Different than Elmer.
That's what I did with Headley. Is Headley had a bunch of Bofangs that he was using for his racing team, and he was having problems with them. And I said, hey, bring him to the meeting. I'll program him up with whatever you want. So we did it at a meeting a couple of years ago. I got his radios working for him for his racing team, and helped him, you know, with some design ideas for his Go box. Now, hopefully I will see him, you know, tomorrow or Sunday, you know, at this weekend, to see how he's made up on his progress. But again, you're right. You want that enthusiasm. Yep. You don't need I know we're all guilty of this. Every single one of us is guilty of this, that, you know, we pontificate a little bit, and we just maybe got to tone it down a little bit, you know, keep it simple, keep the information clear and easy for somebody to understand. They don't need to understand maybe all the theory. Just make sure your station is grounded. You don't need to know why, but just ground it. You know,
actually, excitement and motivation is more important than raw knowledge or experience at this point.
Yes, absolutely. You don't necessarily need to know why just right now, but just do it, and then you'll figure it out later. You'll learn why later and say, "Oh yeah, that makes sense."
And that's why I've said, for coaches, I'd rather have people that have been amateurs for less than 2 years. I'd like people that are younger, that are trying to explore newer things. You don't want the guy that got in and he's been here about a year, just bought his second Bofang. You want the guy that joined and is just going, he's learning, he's doing, because that energy will be passed on to the next person and the next person and the next person. And that's what we need, is remember that coaching has little to do with knowledge and experience, and a lot to do with motivation and
beautifully said. I agree with that. Yeah, if you have the knowledge, great, but realize who you're talking to, and if they want the knowledge, give it to them. If not, if they just need some motivation, give them that.
Exactly.
And then they'll come back a little hungrier and say, now I want the knowledge. They will have that I've got to know sort of feeling, or why is this way and not that way? And they'll ask the questions. The next thing you know, they're deep into it, hip deep, and spending tens of thousands of dollars on equipment.
Yeah. You head out, Dave. We'll see you later, buddy. Thanks for coming in tonight.
I want to say something to Leo.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Dave. Go direct with Leo.
Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, Leo, call Headley in the morning. He may not be out there. He's had hip replacement surgery.
Oh, no.
And he's up to just working around with a cane now, but he's off of the walker now, but he's still doing home therapy, but he may not get out, but give him a call.
Yeah, no, I will. I've heard him a couple of mornings this week on the traffic net, which was good to hear, and everybody was surprised that he was actually back on, that they have missed him. I've been away for almost a year. We came down very late this year because of jobs and moving to new states and buying new houses and titles on trucks and registration and driver's licenses and all the pain in the butt stuff that goes along with all that. So we didn't get down here until just this past weekend. So it was good to hear him on the air. I will definitely check in with Headley this week. If not tomorrow, then certainly, during the week, and find out where he's at. Maybe I'll go over and give him a visit, but I didn't realize that he had a hip operation. I do appreciate that information too. Maybe I'll bring him something over to eat.
Okay.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that.
All right. And Dave and Rick and everybody, thanks you guys for, you know, all the help tonight. It's kind of weird teaching a class backwards like this, but it's working.
No,
Hey, Rick.
the way to learn something is to ask questions, and
Exactly.
the way to be able to teach someone is to be able to answer those questions.
Yep.
And that validates what you know too. So it's good on both ends. It's good on both ends. It keeps everybody fresh and honest, I guess, for lack of a better term.
So Leo 4, did we get you out of your other meeting tonight?
Yeah, they quit like 5 minutes ago.
There he is. How you doing, Leo?
Well,
we hope to see you tomorrow.
Oh, I'm going to be there.
Awesome.
The other thing, Ian, I was going to tell you too, and I just couldn't get it on the button fast enough. You were talking about doing conversions on with the metric and stuff. You can actually buy metric tape measures now, and it helps a lot when you're building antennas.
Oh, and it's got the measurements on both measurements on it.
Yep.
No, just strictly metric now too.
Oh, I would like one that has it on both sides. To be honest,
Go to Home Depot and buy the red Milwaukee. It's got English Standard on the top, metric on the bottom.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, that's
But
a good idea.
but those are non-conductive, so you can't use those to make an antenna with, unfortunately.
Then what am I going to do with it when it breaks?
Yeah, exactly. I know. We've all done that. Yeah, it's a tape measure
I've already
antenna.
ripped apart 2 tape measures and made stuff with them.
I won't
One
rip
of them
apart
was
a
still
good one,
working,
but
I
I'll use a
think.
broken one. Yeah.
I can't find another broken one, so I'm going to break one.
If you don't want to spend that much, go to Harbor Freight. They have them there cheap.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, I've been looking at material to make antennas with, and I saw an article. I might have mentioned this to some of you guys already, but I found an article where they're using aluminum arrows, like archery arrows, and
Oh, sure. Yeah.
they're threading the arrow and threading it right into the side of the PVC pipe, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. That'd make a really neat antenna, and you could also hurt somebody with it if you had to.
Well, you know what? If you go to if there is a bow club or an archery club down in this area, or an archery range and hunting sales setup, oftentimes they will have old arrows that have a slight bend to them that the bow hunters won't use because it doesn't hit what they want it to hit, obviously, and they'll just either drop them off or give them away. So you can pick that stuff up for dirt cheap.
Yeah, the only thing you got to watch is apparently the most common arrow now is made out of what is it?
Carbon fiber.
Carbon fiber stuff, yeah.
That's what it is, and those obviously won't work.
Yeah, no, they're not going to work. They're not going to radiate. But yeah, no, there's still, Easton Arrow Company still, and I'm a bow hunter, so Easton Arrow Company still makes multiple different diameters too. So if you want to hunt for your arrow diameters for whatever project you're working on, hell, go look on Craigslist. I'm sure somebody's shooting or selling archery stuff.
Well, yeah, I went on Amazon, and I can buy, I think, 12 of them for like $20, $22, something like that. And I figured I could build. They're long enough that
that's actually not bad.
Yeah,
that's actually a good price.
1, 2, 3. I just do them like that, and then on all of them, I would just screw them all the way in to where they're touching in the middle of the pipe.
Sure.
And then the last 2 I would screw into where there's a 1/2-inch gap in there, and then we just have to figure out how we're going to attach the.
Well, the other benefit is they're already pre-printed with a camouflage pattern, so they're stealthy for HOAs.
That's true too. The ones I were looking at were this really cool red color, but yeah. but yeah, if you needed to make something stealth.
You can go to Harbor Freight and pick up some copper brazing rods there. I did that. And those things will actually go down into the connector, whether it's an N or a SO239, and then you can, make your radials, and you've got your nice little quarter wave ground plane for 2 meters, 220, 440. In fact, there's a way you can actually make it 2 and 440.
I watched a guy on YouTube. He made a antenna out of paper clips. Actually strung them all together. He's a ham radio crash course. He has a big following, and it worked. The only bad thing is when the wind blew, they started losing touch with each other. They like gallop a little bit.
Yeah,
he'd lose it.
You have that problem with those tape measure antennas too. When I was first using those, if I'm listening to a repeater, when the wind would blow, it would literally, you could hear it fluttering, and every now and then when the wind would blow just right, it would like go off frequency because it was literally, they were blowing up in the air like this. But they were never made to be a permanent antenna.
Yeah.
I made 2 7-element little 770 tape measure Yeagis, and I still use them. I've got one up there now that I use with the Fusion. They work really good, and it's made out of a 4x4 piece of wood and tape measure pieces and screws and washers, and that's it. And then the wire just hooks right up to the elements with a little hairpin turn. That's it. And they're perfect SWR.
Yep.
Oh well.
Some of the first 2 meter antennas I made were out of coat hanger wires.
Yeah, the first one I made was a coat hanger and a piece of wood.
Yeah.
And it was, I made a dipole for 2 meter, and I made it because I wanted to go up about 15 feet, and I was able to make the newbie net down in a stereo with it.
It works.
But I was still frying bacon, so then I learned how to build a Yagi next.
Yeah, I took a SO239, a coat hanger, and a metal coffee can to make my first antenna.
Works.
All right, gentlemen, I will say 7-3s. I am done cooking for the evening. I will see everyone tomorrow morning at field day.
We'll see you out there. I think I'm going to go on over at 9 o'clock and make sure there's enough help loading up. I figured they probably had enough help, but then I talked to Steve at Lunch Bunch, and he said, well, there's a lot they got to load up out there. So I think I'll just go by and make sure they got enough help. I'm not that far from there.
And we always need help there, setting up the big tower, running wire, all that.
No, I meant over at the swap shop.
Well, in both places.
Yeah. So I'll be at the swap at 9, and then I'll just come over with the caravan when they come over. So we'll just do it that way. What's up, Rick?
Well, I'd like to go to field day, but I'm in the middle of moving, so trying to get out of there by Monday. So I'm still got a few things to do. A couple of washing machines. Got to move my washer and dryer and a couch and a few other things. I've been at it all day.
Oh wow!
At least it's not a far move, right, Rick?
Yeah, it's right next door. So that's a lot better than moving 600 miles like I did last time.
Yeah, and you take the whole truck out of the middle too.
Yeah, get rid of that and get rid of those people you got to pay for and everything else. A lot cheaper, but it's a lot more work.
Yeah. Oh man, I hate moving. I don't move very often. I've lived here 9 years. I lived at the place before that like 15. I don't move very often.
I don't move very often either. So
I moved a person 2 doors down. Literally, we put it on hand trucks and walked it right down the middle of the road, right to the next house.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing. I got a hand truck, fortunately.
Yep.
So.
Oh well, I am looking forward to tomorrow. It's going to be fun. The only concern I have, to be honest with you, is I can no longer do 36 hours straight.
Oh come on.
Well, I used to. My God, I'm not going to brag here, but there was a time when there was a time when I was a lieutenant at Bayshore Fire Department, a volunteer at Fort Myers Shores Fire Department, an auxiliary deputy with the Lee County Sheriff's Department, a part-time dispatcher with Lee Control, a volunteer / part-time emergency manager with Lee County Emergency Management. And I was doing all of that at the same time. And I would work a 24-hour shift at the fire station, get off that morning, sleep for 4 hours, go in and work a dispatch shift, leave there, go in and work an overnight at the sheriff's department, and then go back into the fire department first thing in the morning and work a day shift. I used to stay up for 2-3 days at a time. It was nothing for me, nothing. And now it's like by 10 o'clock at night, I'm done. I'm washed up.
Yeah.
And I'm just very concerned that at my advanced age now, that I don't think I'm going to, I don't know if I'm able to do, I don't know. I think I need to like go home and take a nap first or something. I don't know.
You're going to be a lot like me, Ian. I thought the same thing the first time I got on there.
Yeah.
You get out there, you start making contacts. Next thing you know, it's 4 a.m. And then
Well,
the
that's
sun
cool.
comes
And I'm
up.
that kind of person. When I'm busy, I'm fine.
You don't think
so
about
Yeah.
I'll probably be all right.
Well, and we there'll be 3 or 4 people there all night.
Yeah.
Me, Brian, Ian, if you're there, and who knows who else. But you know, if you get tired, just go sleep for a little bit. It's only supposed to be like 60 as a low, so it's not that bad. Last year it was like 40.
Oh, I gotta tell you guys, that's another thing. The weather is amazing. I've been watching for about a week now. As we get closer to this, I've been watching the weather, and I'm actually quite impressed. This is going to be some of the best weather that you could ask for down here for field day, for winter field day.
Yeah.
It's going to be absolutely amazing. The forecast is perfect. They actually brought it up a couple of degrees, which was kind of surprising.
Yeah.
There's the
Down here-
forecast. Yeah, there's
down here,
Saturday,
but-
77 for the high on tomorrow, and then 58 for the low. That was 56. They've brought that up 2 more degrees.
Yeah.
That's really not bad.
Yeah, but the Northeast is supposed to be getting hit with a storm, so we'll see how much out of the Northeast.
Well, yeah, the weather's going to affect the people we're talking to, but yeah, I get what you mean by that. But at least for us, it looks really nice. The coldest we have is like 58 or 59 degrees, and that's at 7 a.m. on Sunday morning. So not bad at all.
Well, yeah, it's fun, and you won't. First year, I didn't get tired one bit, but we'll have coffee. I bring in hot chocolate. We have food.
I don't normally take energy drinks, which is really good because when I need one, it works really well.
Yeah.
So I'll bring a few of them too.
But no, what I think you're a lot like me. Once you get the contacts going, you just stay awake, you know.
Yeah.
And
I
then
may
you get-
crash Sunday morning. I mean, I may go home Sunday morning and crash and then come back at noon or whatever. It's
Well,
probably
and-
what I'm going to do is stay up all night and then just go home and crash in the morning.
Seeing that, I want to try the 160 because I got the antenna. I didn't have it last year, so I'm going to try it this year. But you know, if you can get out there and start going, you know,
All we need is get one CW contact, 1 digital contact, and 1 voice contact on 160, and that's 3 multipliers right there that we didn't get
well,
last year.
I don't know if you know Dan Hayes. His call signs in like Foxtrot, Z Foxtrot, or Z Foxtrot Z, but he has the same antenna and he does digital. So
cool.
We'll try it.
Yeah,
That's all you can do.
you guys are going to think I'm nuts, but I actually, I even showed John this the other night, but I actually went and created a form that will show, it actually shows all the multipliers, and we go right down the list. Every time we fill in one of these, we multiply every contact we get by 1. So if we get all 3 of those in the 160, that's 3 more multipliers than we had last year. So then all I would need is to get about 7 more multipliers, and we would double our score from last year without getting any more contacts.
And 6 and 10 are starting to open up a little bit now too.
And we didn't get anything last year on 15, I think, 10 or 6. Those are all wide open this year that we can get this year that we didn't get last year. And like I said, all I need is 10 multipliers and we will more than double our score from last year. And then we also have 2 meter and 70 centimeter. And I'm bringing my FT100, and I'm bringing a Yagi that does both bands. And if no one else is, I'm going to hit the calling frequencies for different modes and stuff and see if I can hit a few more of these multipliers. If I can get 70 centimeter voice and 2 meter voice, that's 2 multipliers right there. You see what I mean?
And get with me tomorrow. If nobody else is using it, I'll have my 7100 there.
Mm-hmm.
And it does UHF, VHF sideband. So,
okay.
And
mine does too, but yours is probably better because mine's on the radio. But and I'm just looking to do it. I don't care what radio we do it on. I just want to do it.
But no, I didn't know yours did sideband, but there are some people out there that are on it, and that would count.
There's actually a 2 meter sideband calling channel, I believe. So there's somewhere to start. They don't want you on the standard 2 meter calling channel, but they didn't say anything about the sideband calling channels.
Or I think you can call on there, but they want you to do the exchange off the channel.
Okay. Well, either whatever it takes. I don't want to break the rules, but I want, I'm not one of these guys that I got to win or I'm going to be pissed, but I just like to, I would love to see us get a bunch more of these multipliers this year.
You got something, Dan? Sorry if I cut you off.
Oh, I was just going to say, I was just going to say, I'm going to have my TS2000, and that's a all band, all mode radio. So I don't think we'll have any shortage of radios that have that capability. So I'll have my TS2000 tomorrow with me. So
yeah, I mean, I'm bringing my FT100 and my Go box, but I figured I probably wouldn't even pull it out of the car, but I'm going to have it with me just in case, because if no one else is doing multipliers, I'm going to work them myself and see if I can get them, because it's kind of weird how big a deal it is. I mean, you can go out and work for 2 days, and I can go over and make one contact and times everything you did by 2.
See, I remember it's not a contest.
Yeah, no, it's not. Yes, it's not.
Yeah, but no, it's a fun.
Remember,
time.
it is not a contest.
Yeah, but it's what I got in the ham radio for. It's emergency communications.
Right.
I kind of look at it like something happened and we're going to the park to set up and run comms for the weekend.
Well, one thing to remember about me, I'm not a big competition guy, but I'm a strategy guy. I don't care about winning, but when it comes down to if we can find a strategy that would like double our score from last year, I'm in. I think that would be so cool.
Yeah. I thought I was going to do all this before I heard you even say about it, because I got the capability. I have the capabilities to do 6. Now I can do the 160. So right there's 2 more, and I'd probably never run on 6, but that's the only reason why I got the antenna is to run on field days. And then 2, if there's a whole bunch of sideband guys there that, I can't go anyplace else, I can always run down to 6 and play down there.
Well, I asked John what the deal is with, that he says, whatever you want to do, just do it. So I'll get with you and we'll get a game plan together and we'll see what we can do.
You can only have 1 person per mode per band at one time.
Yes.
You can't have 10, 20 meter guys running at once. So,
and I think we're going to run 7, which means we cannot have more than 7 stations powered up at the same time.
Yeah, but that can always change. I've seen that change at field day. We go from 7 to 9.
Here's the thing. Every number you go up divides your score.
No.
Well, you're competing against people with more units then. I mean, one way or the other, the more units you have, the harder it is to level up to the same people in your class. So
I don't know, because like when I look at the webpage, it just shows like the top scores for outdoors. Top scores for indoors.
Yeah, but how does that work if we're running 7 stations and Charlotte County's running 4?
I don't know.
I thought that the reason you give your station your number, like ours will probably be 7, 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever, the reason you give that is because that's how your score is finished at the end. That's how they figure out the scores at the end. That's how I figured it was. But
Yeah, I read it.
I didn't actually explicitly read that somewhere.
I took it. You took the number of contacts times the number of bands times the number of modes. You know, I mean the multipliers.
Right.
So you take the contacts times that, and then you add in. You know, if
Plus
you do a
extra
satellite 1500, if you do generator, but I don't see anything about the number of stations, unless they keep track per class, maybe.
Well, that's
But-
what I mean. It's
But
like
we
if
might
we're
be the only
seven, then we're technically competing against other clubs that
Yeah.
have 7 stations.
If there's anybody out there, there's a lot, especially with the COVID, you'll hear a lot of 1Hs, one person at home.
Yeah.
And Charlotte said they won one year because they were the only one in their class or something. I didn't know exactly what they meant by that, but yeah, it doesn't really matter. Like I said, I want to try to get as many of those multipliers as we can.
The only thing I wish they would change is you have to run 100 watts or less, because that's all you heard on Summerfield days. Everybody tuning up, and you know, guys sitting at home with big amps, they'd come booming in. When I can hear somebody 9 over from Hawaii here on my little portable antenna,
yeah,
you know he's running some power.
Now we're going to run that's another thing. If you run under 20, it's times 3. If you run under 100, it's times 2. If you run over 100, it's times 1.
And that's
on
any
each
station
contact.
You know, that's each. If anybody there runs over 100, we get bumped up to that next class up. You know what I mean?
So we're going to do the whole. See, I thought that was per station. Maybe it is. If it's per
No,
club,
yeah,
then
we all run 100 or
everything at
less.
100 watts or less. Correct.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so everything's going to be times 2 then.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have any amps there at all.
Okay, so then that's okay. All right. It's complicated, but it's fun figuring it all out. I actually printed out the rules. I've got them here in my book in case we have to start going through it over there. But